You can own a traditional Italian stone house in Umbria for around $60,000, and no, these aren't abandoned ruins sitting in the middle of nowhere. These are real homes with mountain views, olive trees, historic villages, and in many cases, interiors you can move into without touching a single wall. Today we're walking through 7 stone properties across Umbria that come in at prices that will genuinely surprise you. From restored village homes and countryside farmhouses to panoramic properties with land, terraces, fireplaces, and olive groves. Several land under $100,000. A few carry enough space to run as rentals or guest houses. And the final properties look like they belong in a film set, not a real estate listing. If you've ever wanted to own property in Italy without spending Tuscany money, this video is about to completely reset what you think is possible. Let's get into it. The first one carries an asking price of 58,000 euros, which lands at roughly $68,000. And that number deserves a moment. A detached stone house, 3 floors, 150 square meters of actual living space, sitting in a hamlet called Matanano inside the Valnerina Valley. Exposed stone walls and handcrafted wooden beams define the exterior immediately, and a south, east, and west facing. Orientation means natural light floods through this place for most of the day, with the mountains framed in nearly every window. Inside, 5 generously sized rooms spread across those 3 floors, 2 bathrooms, a fireplace dining room built for evenings with a glass of local wine, and 2 double bedrooms anchor the layout. Individual natural gas heating already runs through the property. Dedicated storage comes with it, and the listing puts it plainly: move in and enjoy it from day one, because no major renovation work is waiting for you. Ferentio's amenities sit minutes away, and Spoleto, Assisi, Perugia, and Rome all fall within comfortable reach. For 58,000 euros, this isn't a ruin project or a joke listing. It's a real entry point into Italian property ownership. And here's the thing. The next one adds something this one doesn't have: a hidden floor with commercial potential that most buyers walk right past without realizing what they're looking at. Before we go further, a quick note. Always verify documents, fees, and local planning rules before committing to anything, because listings move fast and prices reflect the moment of selection. Now let's keep going, because Umbria keeps delivering. Number 2 lands at 80,000 euros, roughly $94,000. And this one covers a portion of a stone house with a garden in a village called Matchi, 4 kilometers from Panicale and 9 from Castiglione del Lago. That lake proximity shifts the whole feeling of the property, since Lake Trasimeno ranks among the most beautiful inland lakes in Italy, and you're close enough to feel its presence without paying lake view premiums. Spread across 2 floors, totaling 120 square meters, just under 1,300 square feet. And this is where it gets interesting. The ground floor holds a large commercial space of around 72 square meters with its own bathroom, which the listing describes as a space that could become an independent unit. That's a second income stream, a guest suite, a studio, or a rental depending on what you need, and none of that flexibility costs you extra. Upstairs, accessed by an external staircase, the apartment runs through a living room with kitchenette, hallway, 2 bedrooms, bathroom, utility room, and a terrace. Listed in good maintenance condition, free on 3 sides, inside the village and close to all main services, this property reads as real village life rather than a remote outpost. Most buyers look at this listing and see a terrace apartment, but the ground floor commercial space is what makes 80,000 euros feel like the wrong price for what you're actually getting. The next property takes a different angle entirely, because we're stepping into something built in the 1800s that looks like it belongs in an architecture feature. A quick pause here. Most of Umbria's valleys collect around 300 days of sunshine per year. The summers run warm without tipping into brutal, and the winters stay mild compared to Northern Europe, while the entire region sits within a 2-hour drive of Rome's international airport. British, American, and Northern European expats have been quietly relocating here for decades, drawn by the fact that it doesn't perform for tourists. It simply functions as actual Italy. Back to the properties. Property 3 carries a price of 95,000 euros, about $111,000, and what you're buying is a village house in Localidad Machialunga, built in the 1800s, restored carefully, and kept in good condition since. When restoration gets done right, it means the authentic stone stays real, the architecture stays intact, and modern comfort gets layered in without erasing the character of the building, and that's exactly what happened here. Around 115 square meters of built space, roughly 1,240 square feet, spread across 5 well-distributed rooms, 2 renovated bathrooms, a fireplace, a balcony, and a private garden surrounded by Umbrian hills. Natural gas heating runs individually through the property. Storage space comes with it, and uncovered parking sites nearby. Positioned between the Valnerina region and the historic city of Spoleto, this is the kind of address that turns up in slow travel features, except it actually carries a for sale sign. For a restored 1800 stone home with a private garden and those views, 95,000 euros stops experienced Italy watchers cold. None of that, though, quite prepares you for what comes next. Because at 120,000 euros, Property 4 introduces something this one doesn't carry, and it shifts the entire value calculation. Property 4 comes in at 120,000 euros, which works out to around $141,000, and it sits in Loreto Basso, a quiet cluster of houses, about 9 kilometers from the medieval center of Gubbio. Gubbio is one of those Italian hill towns that still feels completely real. Not overrun, not manicured for tourists, just genuinely lived in and genuinely beautiful. Climbing the steep slopes of Monte Angino like it has something to prove, the town stacks its gray stone palaces and Roman theater against the hillside in a way that scrambles your sense of what century you're standing in. Continuously inhabited, since before the Romans arrived, its medieval street plan remains so intact that film crews use it as a standing set. Every May, the Corsa dei Terri sends giant wooden pillars racing through the streets in a festival that has run for centuries and shows no sign of stopping, and the town around it still operates with real butchers, real bars, and real life happening at full volume. The stone village house nearby has been completely renovated using anti-seismic materials, which carries real weight in central Italy. About 130 square meters across 2 floors, the layout includes a spacious living room, 4 rooms, 1 bathroom, a fireplace, and a balcony. What separates this one from everything listed before it is the ground floor, which already has windows and utility connections installed, leaving a versatile space ready to become a second apartment, a studio, or a workshop, depending on what you need. Included in the 120,000 euro price tag are a garage, a storage room, and an agricultural plot with its own water supply. Land with a water source, folded into the asking price. That's the detail that sounds too good, but the listing confirms it's exactly what's on offer. 9 kilometers from a living medieval city, surrounded by scenic countryside, and built for the long term. For families or remote workers who need real space, this one leads the pack. 2 more properties are still to come, and the next one arrives at 150,000 euros with lake views and 7,000 square meters of agricultural land attached. A quick fact worth sitting with. Umbria holds more UNESCO World Heritage Sites per square kilometer than almost anywhere else in Europe. Assisi, Spoleto, Gubbio, all here, all drivable, all functioning cities rather than open-air museums. The roads connect well, the trains run, and Perugia's international airport has been adding routes steadily. This is not remote in the way people fear when they hear rural Italy. The infrastructure exists, and the things worth caring about are nearby. Property 5 lands at 150,000 euros, roughly $176,000, and this is where the numbers start to tip hard in the buyer's favor. Near Lake Trasimeno, in a village called Pucciarelli, a detached stone house spreads across 3 floors and 156 square meters, or about 1,680 square feet. 5 rooms, 2 bathrooms, a terrace, and a north-southeast orientation that pulls light through the house across most of the day. Built in 1970 and kept in good condition since, the listing describes a property you can move into without fighting a renovation for the first 3 years. Here's where it shifts entirely. The property currently divides into 2 independent units with separate access, which opens options that most listings at this price won't touch. Live in one side and rent the other, house extended family without sharing a front door, or run one unit as a holiday let while you occupy the second. Wrapped around the building sits a private garden with a well, a garage included in the price, additional uncovered parking, storage areas, and approximately 7,000 square meters of agricultural land. 7,000 square meters is just under 2 acres, and 2 acres isn't a garden, it's a small farm. Near one of Umbria's most beautiful lakes, with 2 independent residential units and nearly 2 acres described in the listing as ready to enjoy, 150,000 euros buys something that would cost 3 times as much in most comparable European regions. One property remains, and it's bigger in every direction. Subscribe if you want more finds like this. The next region runs even cheaper, and the search never stops. Property 6 sits at 169,000 euros, or about $198,000, and it operates at a different scale altogether. Outside the village of Olivole near Ficul in Terni province, Umbria's southern stretch, wilder and far less visited than the rest of the region, a 4-bedroom country house opens onto views that most people spend their entire lives not having. Terni province sits where Umbria, Tuscany, and Lazio converge, pulling the geography of all 3 without carrying the price tag of any of them, and the hilltop villages here feel untouched because by most reasonable standards, they are. Perched above the green Chiani Valley, this property looks directly at the castle of Parano. Not toward it, not in its general direction. Directly at it, out the window every day. Approximately 261 square meters of habitable space, nearly 2,800 square feet, spread across 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, bright living areas, versatile interiors, and a spacious tavern room built for entertaining. Double external access means the layout already supports the creation of separate independent residential units, according to the listing. Outside, a pergola draped with American vines and grapes shades the terrace, and olive trees, fruit trees, and space for a vegetable garden fill the surrounding land. Municipal water, electricity, telephone, and internet connections are all confirmed in place. So nothing about this is a ruin or a project waiting to happen. 261 square meters, a castle view, olive trees, and a pergola at 169,000 euros. In a condition the listing describes as move-in ready, this is the kind of property that typically costs 3 times as much the moment you cross into Tuscany. One more is coming, and from the beginning the promise has been that the final entry breaks the pattern entirely. Stay with it. Comment below which of these you'd actually choose so far. One property left. Property 7 lands at 245,000 euros, around $288,000. And before that number puts you off, consider what it actually buys. A panoramic stone farmhouse in the hills of Umbria, with uninterrupted views over Todi and Monte Castello di Gubbio, 2 of the most cinematic hilltop towns in central Italy. Todi sits on a solitary summit above the Tiber Valley, its medieval piazza at the crown studied by architects who still can't fully explain why the proportions feel so right. A few kilometers away, Monte Castello di Gubbio runs quieter still, a village of a few hundred people gathered around a tiny jewel box theater that has hosted performances since the early 1800s. Together, they form a visual backdrop that no amount of money and no landscape designer could manufacture. No overlooking neighbors exist at any angle, just hills, olive trees, and open sky in every direction. Around 140 square meters of living space, just over 1,500 square feet, spreads across 2 floors, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a dining area, a living room with fireplace, a spacious terrace, and a covered porch. Air conditioning comes already installed. 2 parking spaces are included, and a cellar sits below. What closes the argument, though, is the land, approximately 5,000 square meters, just over 1 acre, planted with around 30 olive trees. 30 trees don't read as decoration. That's a small working olive grove producing something every season. An annex currently functioning as a carport adds further flexibility to the footprint. Run the numbers per square meter of land, per olive tree, per unobstructed view corridor, and 245,000 euros delivers a quality of life that would cost 3 or 4 times as much in Tuscany, the Dordogne, or the Algarve. According to the listing, the property sits ready to function as a holiday home, a countryside residence, or a rental investment. This one takes the latter. 7 properties down, and the shape of this list is clear, so here's the fast version. For first-time Italy buyers testing the water, property 1 at 58,000 euros, a solid stone house in the Valnerina with mountain views and livable condition, is the place to start. For families or investors who want the best value per move, property 4 at 120,000 euros delivers an anti-seismic renovation, convertible extra space, land with a water supply, and a garage 9 kilometers from Gubbio. For the land play specifically, property 5 at 150,000 euros puts nearly 7,000 square meters and 2 independent units near Lake Trasimeno into a single price, and the land alone reframes what that number means. Remote workers and retirees chasing a turnkey arrival will find property 6 at 169,000 euros hardest to argue against. 261 square meters, 4 bedrooms, a castle view, olive trees, a pergola, and confirmed internet coverage. And sitting at the top of the ladder, property 7 at 245,000 euros offers a panoramic stone farmhouse with 30 olive trees, no neighbors, views over Todi, and the kind of daily life that most people spend years describing in future tense. Prices reflect listings at the time of this roundup, and a local agent or notary should verify all documents and fees before anything moves forward, but the listings are real and properties at this level don't wait. Now drop your answer in the comments. 7 options covered: the 58,000 euro stone house in the mountains, the 80,000 euro double unit with the terrace, the 1800s restored gem at 95,000 euros, the anti-seismic deal at 120,000 euros with the land and garage, the lake-adjacent 2-unit at 150,000 euros with nearly 2 acres, the 4-bed Castle View country house at 169,000 euros, or the panoramic olive grove farmhouse at 245,000 euros. Pick your one and put it below. And if you want the next region, because there's always a next region, and it almost always runs cheaper than this one, subscribe so you're there when it drops.